There we go. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is our third office hours, so we'll have three more after this. And this is an open forum Q&A for artists. So, we've been talking about galleries last week, and we'll talk about them a little more this week. And then we can also talk about like alternatives to galleries, art fairs and festivals, and also residencies. So what I'm going to do is there was already a question brought up, and so I'll start there and then feel free to raise your virtual hand and ask any other questions about galleries. And, if go ahead so we're not all talking over each other. If you want to comment and chat, or if it's, something, if you want to, have a good response and want to raise your hand and comment, that would be great because we're taking the experience from everybody. um, Also, as usual, if you want to put your contact information in chat, your Instagram, social media, website, email address, and where you're located, and everybody, I'll send the chat afterwards, but also if you could save the chat at the end. And yeah. Um, so I see Wendy, you have a question about tag. That's a great question. But let me go ahead. So, and actually this kind of goes along with April brought this up. How do you determine the gallery quality? I don't remember who initially asked that question on the spread, when you filled out the form, but um, I mean, that question could mean many things, but starting with tag is a great question. You know, it it I feel like, I mean, gallery quality is subjective. It is subjective to who you are as an artist, to where you want to go. Every gallery is different. And I will like tag, if you're not familiar, tag, it's the artist gallery tag.
What?
It's on Wilshire. It's across
Well, it's more
from
like
LACMA, or close
I'm
to LACMA.
listening.
Let me go ahead and there we go. Close to LACMA, and it's a member gallery. So you pay, a certain amount per year, and you get a solo show, and it's run by the artists. So, the artists meet, I think, monthly or however often, and they volunteer, and, they help run the gallery. So, it's in a great location, art sells. I juried the show there a few months ago, the Made in LA show, I think it was. And it was wonderful. The opening reception was lovely. The energy at the reception was, um, it was just like, everybody was happy. They were, happy to be there, happy to talk about art, happy to see art. The art I felt was high quality. And so, I thought it was great. So, but I know, in the past, tag has not had a good reputation because some consider it pay to play. So, and that is also subjective, the idea of pay to play. There's different versions of pay to play, but if you think about collectives, like for instance, Durden and Ray or Tiger Strikes Asteroid or Monte Vista, the artists there also pay a monthly fee. So it's like, what's the difference? So when you think about it that way, tag is like a collective. And I mean, artists, we hustle, we do whatever we can to get things done, to sell our art, to show our art, to be part of a community. And if we are comfortable with, showing at tag or Los Angeles Art Association or Durden and Ray, or any place like that, and our art sells, or we have a solo show that we can document, then why not go for it? Now, thinking of quality, if you think so, Durden and Ray has really good shows. They're a great location. Their space is fantastic. They get foot traffic. They get, their openings. I didn't go over the weekend, but from all the pictures I saw and everything I heard, the group show was well attended. And it's like, you don't see that at a lot of places. So, I mean, it's a big group show also, but so it depends on the audience. Some people will say that that is a high quality gallery. That's a high quality show, and so forth. There's other people that, won't necessarily look at tag, and of course they're looking at Gagosian and, they see Gagosian as high quality. And, it is just a different, I don't want to say level because, I hate hierarchy just because one gallery is selling work for millions of dollars where another gallery is selling work for hundreds, of dollars. It's like, I would rather meet with the artists who sell work for $100, myself. So, of course, everybody's different. So quality is subjective. Um, Now thinking about quality in terms of like if you're looking for a gallery to show that you want to show in, think about like what qualities do you look for in a gallery? Again, because everybody's different. So what qualities do you personally look for? This could be, you're looking for a gallery or gallerist, the person who works at the gallery who is, going to get your work into museums or going to, get you on the, art talk circuit or get you, get your work traveling, or they have a big collector base, or they're in a good location, or they treat their artists really well. So and then sometimes you don't know, you have to experience. There have been galleries in the past that have been deemed high quality, cough Ace, if you're familiar with Ace, from the past. They were on Wilshire.
Mhm.
Douglas Christmas, I think that's his name, who was sued, who didn't pay his artists.
Mhm.
I mean, he's been in the news. If you're not familiar, look him up in Ace Gallery. It's been years now. It's so funny. I mean, it doesn't seem that long, but since the gallery closed, but it was a high quality gallery. So it's like, quality is subjective. So really, ask yourself, what is quality to you? It could be working with a quality gallerist, and that could be a really down to earth, supportive cheerleader gallerist. And the gallery may be, may have brick walls, maybe in a rough part of town, but they sell your work, so you have to think about that and think about, um, like, and you have to experience it for yourself to learn what quality, you want to work with, if that makes sense. So, let me see. Are there questions about that or about, did that help answer your question about tag also, I think? Or,
Yeah, yeah. I
okay,
actually am a member of TAG, so I
okay.
just wanted to kind of get an outsider's point of view.
Yeah. I mean, some artists want to have a solo show. I've worked with several artists who show at Tag or who have shown at Tag, and they loved it because they had a deadline. They created a new body of work. They were able to put together a cohesive show, within a certain amount of time. Of course, it has its ups and downs, like working with any group of people. I mean, trust me. But it's like, you get out of it what you put into it, and this goes for everything. You get out of it what you put into it. And you just, it goes back to your values, your goals, your ideas of who you want to be as an artist. And I always say try something once. Try it, and you'll see if you feel like it's a good fit for you, and if not, that's okay. Move on to something else. So
I like the fact that I'm having a solo show there in December, which I will
awesome.
assault.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll assault you with the information at some point in the future. And I like that they have monthly or, they have shows often and you can enter them. So your work is up in different kind because they have little galleries within the big gallery. And so you can have your work all over the place. And I do like the feeling that particular collective. I think people are very responsible and I like them because they like me. They always say, "We love your work." And it's like,
Aw.
oh. That's so nice.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then no, that did help. I mean,
Oh,
just
good.
different ways to evaluate it.
Yeah. And the
It
biggest thing.
ultimately comes down to how does it feel?
Exactly, exactly. And get out of it, what you put into it, and get out of it what you want to get out of it. You know, like Los Angeles Art Association, I was a member for a few years back in like 2011 to 2016 or 17 or something. And, and it early on, it was before you submitted work for group shows online. You had to take the work in person and drop it off. And then if it didn't get in, you had to go back and pick it up. And then, yeah, it was a pain in the butt. And then so halfway through is when like they finally went online and everything. I was lucky. I got a solo show my first, like the first year and a half or 2 years of being a member, but I was only in one juried show. I didn't submit to a lot, but I was, the ones that I did submit to, I was only in one. The critique groups for me were what clinched it. I mean, the critique groups were amazing. I felt, and that's why, like with January Arts, we do critique groups. And, I would love to do some type of structure similar to LAAA also in their critique groups, because I feel like were, they just helped my work and they helped me think differently about what I did. They also helped me build community. They, like Barry and I were in a critique group early on. Gosh, I mean, I'm still best friends with some people that I was in critique groups with LAAA, and that was like 10, 12 years ago. Um, so I feel like, that I would have joined LAA for that alone. And Los Angeles Art Association's what, 300, 350 a year. So it's not that expensive. And it's a great introduction to the LA art community. You have like built-in community right there. So, consider that. And I left because I just decided I wasn't putting into it what I needed. I didn't have time. I had kind of, not that I had grown out of it, but I was just moving in a different direction. And that was okay. We try different things. I mean, there are all sorts of like art coaches, art mentors, art, collectives, art associations, all sorts of things. And it's like sometimes you need to try them all and they all have different things. And you kind of have to find like where, the vibe, like, do you feel comfortable? Do um you feel like you could be yourself? Is it like the right art, um, like the right space or place where you're in with your art and things like that. And you have to do that with galleries too. And that means going to galleries and checking them out. And there's so many options out there. There are tons of galleries out there. There's a lot more artists, of course, but there's a lot of galleries, there's a lot of associations. Every town, every city has an association. And even like if you don't live in Pasadena, you could join the Pasadena Society of Artists or a Royal Arts Collective or, things like that. There's so many out there to choose from, um, that it is about finding kind of, again, if that's what you want, finding your community. And I know a lot of people who overlap and are in several of those at the same time, which is great, because as an artist, if you feel like that's where you want to be, then I mean, like just being all in, then go all in. So I hope that helps, as far as that
One
goes.
thing that's nice that they do at TAG is that you can apply to curate a show. So,
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm probably curating 2 shows.
awesome.
Yeah, because I have a book coming out and it's a collage related book. Can I say
Oh,
what it is?
cool.
It's called Collage to the Rescue, and
Oh, nice.
it's 44 artists doing dog themed collages, and half the profits go to not-for-profit rescue organizations.
Oh,
It's
that's
coming out like
awesome.
next week. I've been working on it for 2 years. Yeah.
Well, if you have the information, put it in chat for
Okay.
it. Yeah, if it's on your website or, definitely share it in chat.
Okay, I will. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Wanted to bring up that I feel like that's such a great way to partner with organizations and get your art out there and different curators is to rally around organizations or causes, and then put group shows or reach out to the organizations, because then we're creating our own opportunities. Like I've done that with the oh my god, the name is fleeting me right now.
That's
The
okay.
oh my god, well, they provide for kids, the Assistance League of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I offered to do an art auction. We raised $40,000.
Wow.
And there were like 50 women artists in the show. So yeah, I think that's a great way to curate and yeah, get to know you. Yeah, make
Absolutely. Some of the shows that I mean, like Perceive Me, with every like show that we do and every art piece of art that we sell, a part of the proceeds go to like an eating disorder nonprofit. So, I just feel like giving back that way, helps. But also absolutely, I worked with an artist a few years ago. His work was all about gun violence, and he had a show at Bruce Laurie in Culver City, and he actually reached out to it was a couple of it wasn't like the Trevor Project, but it was a couple of nonprofits that deal with violence and things like that. And they had a booth there outside set up outside, and had like swag, and had all sorts of stuff that you could donate to. And so they partnered and they shared his exhibition online, I mean on social media, and things like that. So absolutely, if your work, fits into a certain niche, or if it, depending on, what it is, like whether it's animal rights, or, it's like reach out to, to like kitten rescue, or, some of these places, maybe at the same time that you have a show, they can also have an adoption center set up or something like that. It's like thinking outside the box and doing things like that. It draws attention to you and your work, and also helps somebody else too. So, I mean, there's all sorts of really cool things you could do like that, when you think outside the box, in those terms. So, and yeah, partnering, collaborating, you know, with whether it is like there's inner city arts or art division, or there's a lot of great nonprofits that work with kids, that work with, domestic violence, that work with, women, that work on Skid Row, that I mean, do so much. And so, it's like get involved. I mean, I say that's one of my mantras, get involved. However that looks for you, whether you donate time, volunteer to like an art charity, it's like you never know what connections can come out of that for you and your work, and where that will lead. It could be having a show at their venue, it could be partnering with them to have a show of your work somewhere else, a group show. I mean, you just never know when you collaborate and when you partner with others, what could come out of it. And so it's hard going it alone. I mean, it is hard, being a lone artist and like doing your work, and and even having a solo show. It is hard. It's because it's your work, it's your community that you're bringing to see the show, depending on where it is. So talking back about galleries, if you have a show at like, say, Honor Fraser in Culver City, Honor Fraser, of course, has its own collector base. They know what collectors, what their collectors want. They have a well-established audience. So they're going to send out their newsletters, they're going to post on social media, they're going to build you up, but they also want you to bring in your own audience. So, I mean, if depending on how new of an artist you are, and that's one of the reasons why they want you to have like a history. They want you to have collectors. They want you to, kind of be established already most of the time. So if you so I mean, they want you to bring in, your audience. And so, I often recommend, if you're going to, have a solo show, why not instead have a 2 or 3 person show? Because then, you like bring in those other 2 artists, their audience also, to see your work. And you never know. I mean, I have shared artist work on social media, and my aunt and uncle bought a piece, from like my friend in Austin. And it's so cool because my friend, he's an assemblage artist in Austin, Texas. We haven't met in person at all. We met in Second Life years and years and years ago. And now it's like all of my LA friends follow him. It's like, it's the coolest thing. Some of you know Scott Rolfe, if you may follow him. But and I met him in Second Life like 15 years ago, but I collect his work. But yeah, that's how it works. It's like supporting others supports you also in roundabout ways, if that makes sense. Let's see. Anybody want to jump off there with a question, or I mean, I can go down the list, but I didn't know if you like had anything to jump off from there. Let's see. Julie, go ahead. You're muted, Julie.
Shoot, I hate when I do that. Hi, thank you. I have a solo show at Keystone coming up, which is has 50 studios, and it runs for 2 weeks. What is the likelihood somebody would look at, a gallery would look at, oh, it's already been shown at, say, an arts collective?
Yeah.
What's the kind of feel on, or the take on that? Because there are other places I'd like to show it, beyond the 2 weeks, unless I sell pieces and then I just rearrange it. But
Yeah. Yeah. Every gallery is different. I may have mentioned this, and I've mentioned it recently, so forgive me if I've said it here. I never remember where I say things. So Perceive Me, I had reached out to the Torrance Art Museum about showing Perceive Me there, and
Mhm.
they have a policy. They only show exhibitions that are original, so that have not been shown anywhere else.
Right.
It depends on the space. Every space is different, but a place like Keystone, the good thing about like having a show at Keystone is you can experiment. You hang
Yes.
the work, you document the heck out of it, you do video, and you're able to stage it so you can shop it around to other places. And then when you send a proposal, no matter where it is, you can always in the proposal, you can say, here is like a mock-up, or here is
Yeah.
here is the show staged. And
Right.
so, this is what it could look like, something like that.
Great. Because there's another place in Germany that would fit really well with the idea. So it's hard to
Yeah.
convey that unless you have it up on the wall in
Yeah.
a space. So I thought that might be helpful. So thank you.
And you're welcome. Different countries, that's like, most places will definitely show, because shows travel. The same
Yeah.
exact show travels. Most of the times they change. For instance, the Ed Ruscha show that's at LACMA, I think it's still up at LACMA. I was going to try and see it. I don't know how long it's up. I don't think I'm going to be able to get over there. It was in New York. And I know, like, my friend Susan used to work for Ed Ruscha, and she saw it in New York. She went to the opening there, with like Ed Ruscha, with everybody that works for him and stuff. And she knew here it was going to be different, because some of the work, there was going to be LA work that was shown
Hmm.
here, where it wasn't shown in New York. So the show kind of changed once it got
Sure.
here. Um,
Well, also the loans, you have to procure loans for specific shows.
oh,
So
absolutely.
that's one of the major reasons that the shows change, is that the lenders only want to loan to specific
Yeah.
areas in the world. They
Yeah.
don't want it shipped around too much.
No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But even like Perceive Me, which traveled to 5 different locations in Southern California,
Wow.
every single location had a different audience. I do have a couple. Oh, so I raised my hand. Um, every single, or I had a couple friends that actually went to like 3 or 4 out of the 5 shows.
Oh my.
Really cool. Um, but at every single location, the show hung differently based on the
Gotcha.
location, and it had a different energy. I mean, I know there's a couple people
That's
that
cool.
saw it in different places. It had a completely different energy based on where it hung. So that's going to happen too. Just remember that. So don't
Yeah.
be afraid to shop the show around, to Southern California, Northern
Mhm.
California, Arizona, other states, other, other countries. I mean,
Yes.
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. And actually, that was like the next question. Is it worth showing out of state? Yes. And I hear this often. Living in Los Angeles, like we have our own art world here, our own, it's like, I mean, for those who are in Los Angeles, Southern California area, I mean, we are one of the centers of the art world. When you think about it, there's like LA, New York, Paris, Berlin, Hong Kong, London. Um, I think that's kind of, I mean, those are like the centers of the art world. That is where there's more artists, there's more galleries. There's other like smaller places, but we are one of the centers. And so when you think about that, I mean, oftentimes, like I, what's the word? Um, I think about it a lot because I mean, I feel like my art world is small here. I mean, I know a lot of people. I know, the organizations. If something pops up and I'm like, why didn't I hear about that? I'm always surprised. So, because I read the art magazines, I see what's going on. And so for me, the art world is kind of small. But when you're coming from a place, like for instance, I know like artists who live in like Central California, like Cambria and Paso Robles and Shandon, and there is nothing out there. There's a whole different art world. I was meeting one of my artists that I was working with, Vicky, lives in Paso Robles. And she's like, we have like one or two galleries. We have some touristy stuff, but that's it. She's like, they don't really have contemporary galleries. So like I told her, I'm like, I knew several artists, in the area. And she invited them to dinner. I may have mentioned this too. Like I said, I can never remember who I mentioned stuff to. She invited them to dinner and she kind of created her own community there, which was very cool. But the biggest thing is like to create a name for yourself somewhere else and then come back to LA. That's what they say. If you live in LA, great, but like show in other places. Submit your work to places that may not know you. And then like, you can come back to LA when you send out a proposal and say, I've shown in Arizona, in New York, in Texas, in all of these places. And I have collectors all over, and galleries are going to love that. Also, like, a friend of mine who's a former client, Erica Lizet, if you don't know, she has amazing installation work. She had an installation up at the Mesa, what was it? Mesa Contemporary Art Museum in Arizona. And I was able to see it when I visited my brother who lives in Mesa. And she was telling me about the opening. She went to the opening. She didn't know anybody, because it was like a group show. She had the installation up there. She said it was one of the best experiences as an artist she's had. She had like really deep conversations about her work, about art, about installations. People were like really interested in who she was and what she did. And she said it was fantastic. And that's what she wants. And so, she's going to, start looking for more of those installations. She's going to do a residency here at Shoebox Projects next year. So keep an eye out for that. She's an amazing artist. She teaches at Moore Park in the Valley. Let's see, Kathy.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on some of the things you were saying about galleries and about different art communities. My limited experience is that different cities have different kinds of communities and galleries. I have actually shown in other towns, and one of them was Santa Fe. And my experience is that most of the galleries there, they have amazingly beautiful galleries, but it's very different kind of galleries than what we have in LA. What my experience has been is that in LA, most of the galleries that I've ever had anything in have done these shows, these group shows, and they do a variety of different shows during the year. The galleries in Santa Fe appear to be geared toward tourists who come into the town, and they don't do as many shows. They have people that they represent more on a permanent basis. They don't change their displays quite as often. And someone like me, the materials that I work in, it's kind of art cove. You know, I work in materials that are fairly, they're delicate. A lot of the galleries in Santa Fe, you know, I asked one time, why don't you have a lot of, I see you have a lot of bronze casting here. Why don't you have a lot of resin cast pieces? And I was told because they don't ship as well. Our buyers come from out of town and they want stuff shipped back to wherever they live. So it's like the audiences in different cities and in different art communities affect what the galleries want, what they're looking for, and what they do.
Yeah, no, very, very true. And that's why it's important to like experiment and explore and find the gallery, find the community, the location that your work is going to, you know, to fit in, you know, whether it's shipping the work or whether it is selling it to people who live there, you know, no matter what it is. I mean, your work, and I mean, I'm speaking the general your, you know, who knows if you have like, I don't know. I'm guessing if like if somebody created rock sculptures, maybe Quartzsite, the tourist, you know, city of Quartzsite on the 10 freeway, may be the perfect place to show your work, you know. So it just, you know, or who's the guy who paints whales and dolphins? You know, I mean, he shows in ocean towns, you know, and like Hawaii and places like that. And, you know, I mean, and then of course, I mean, you have like the whole niche thing, you know, Thomas Kincaid who showed in malls because he knew his public, his like audience was the public, you know. So it is about like finding, you know, and finding your audience, but it's also about thinking about what type of work you do, how much work you do. That's the biggest thing also, is like if you want to show in a gallery or be represented by a gallery, you have to be prolific. You have to create a lot because they need inventory. If they're going to show you regularly, they want to make sure that when they sell a piece of art, you're going to be ready with another one, you know, and or they can have a few in the back. It's like, you know, I know artists who create work, you know, they don't create a lot of work because it's just time consuming. And, you know, their work is intricate, it takes a while. It's like, so you have to find the right
Yes.
space for that. And there are galleries out there for that too. But most galleries, like being with the gallery, working with the gallery, even tag, they want to sell. They need the money, you know, so they're going to do whatever it takes to sell, you know, however that works. And if they represent you, you know, they want to know that they can sell your work. And that's why they're going to represent you because they know their collector base and they wine and dine their collector base. So they know their collector base is going to be interested in the work that you do. That's why, you know, you don't just go to a gallery and, you know, kind of expect them to pick you up. You know, they're going to know their audience. So, yeah, just some other things to think about in those regards. Let's see. So I definitely recommend, you know, in fact, I was talking to my artist about this, I think today. I can't remember what day it is. In terms of like, I recommend whether it's showing your work or even going to a different gallery like once a month. Apply to shows that you haven't applied to before, to galleries that you haven't applied to before. And and I know it's hard to ship your work. I know it can be hard to drive to the openings. Even like from here to Irvine, which it could be like an hour and a half, or San Diego, but again, think about your goals. It depends on who you want to be as an artist. And think about like the location you're in. You can either stay in your neighborhood or you can expand and get out there. And so like applying to a show maybe in another state, applying to shows, the places you haven't been before. And then also, like I said, try, going to a different gallery like once a month. Just someplace new that you haven't been before, because you don't know what's out there until you actually go to them and experience them. And it could be, I think I mentioned this last week, it could be walking out your door and going for a walk around your neighborhood. You could find a neighborhood gallery you had no idea was there. So it's like sometimes it's as easy as, going for a walk in your neighborhood. So, just keep those in mind, but definitely expanding and exploring and not showing at the same places all the time, but getting your work out to different places is how you're going to find who your audience is. So, let's see. Renting space is something else that you could do if you want to get your work out there. I know a lot of people, a lot of artists who do this, and there are spaces you can rent to have shows, whether it's a group show, whether it's a solo show. You can rent for the weekend, you can rent, for the month. It depends on your budget. You just have to figure out, okay, who's going to sit in the gallery. You are responsible for everything, including hanging, including marketing. That's the only thing. So, renting a space, and there are rental spaces. There's like, if you go to peerspace.com, I think, and there's other websites like this that you type in art gallery, and there are places that you can that are good, really good galleries that you can rent out. And then these are great places to hang work, to stage a show, document. So take installation photos of the show, video of the show. It's a great place. Yes, exactly, Kathy, the Makery. It's a great, like, these are great times, great moments to actually, like, it's amazing when you have a solo show to hang all of your work up, because it looks different than seeing it all in your studio. You can actually, like, have white space around the work, or, see how they group together differently. So sometimes this is great. And then have a party. Have a party with your friends, and some of them may buy your work. I wouldn't, of course, we want to sell work, and especially, now with our economy and, with the way things are, who knows how things are going to be, but we want to sell work. So it's like, if, you could do it with, I'm having a party, I'm going to have an art sale, have prints, have, catalogs, have whatever you need to do to sell. Why not? And just have a party. You could do it in your clean out your garage, clean out your living room, move furniture to a back bedroom for a day. Then you wouldn't have to pay to rent out a space. Do it in your living room. Or if you know somebody who has like a pretty empty garage, ask them if you could use the garage. It's like, why not? Or do a 2-person show, and the other person may have an idea, of where, of like where you could show, and again, bringing in their audience. So I definitely believe in either renting a space or, alternative. What can you do alternatively? Go ahead, Julie. Oh, you're muted.
Dang.
That's okay.
Twice now. Okay.
We won't hold it
0.
against you.
Sorry about that. So I just wanted to validate what you said. I just recently did a residency in Nantucket, and I did some research before I went because I wanted to see what other abstract artists had painted on there. And a gentleman by the name of Charles Green Shaw, who started the Abstract Art Association in New York in the 30s, got his start by showing and selling his paintings in local people's homes. And he did it throughout the summer, and that's how he got his name. And I thought, wow, you could do it in a home. That's a great idea. Anyway,
Yeah,
just thought
yeah,
I'd put that in there.
You know, and just speaking of that, I had shared this with my artists. Let me find it. There was just an article in, was it the New York Times? It was on an artist who had an art fair where like none of the art was for sale. You basically, he gave it away, or he, like, oh, what was it? Let me find it. Oh,
Was it Tim Biscuit?
that name doesn't sound familiar.
Okay.
Let me see. It should be right here. I guess, oh, here we go. It was about an art, it was in the art newspaper. Let's see. Does it say the name? It was in New York. The Zero
Oh.
Art Fair. So I'll share it in chat. But I've always thought about, you know, the idea, like, I mean, a lot of us, I mean, most artists, you know, struggle with like storage, you know, storing work, having like, you know, tons of work. What am I going to do with it? It's like, you know, this idea of letting people hang it in their homes for a certain amount of time. And if it doesn't sell, they can either buy it or they could keep it. Or, I mean, there's so many different ways you could do this, but I just love the idea. Like, why not? You know, share it with people, get it out on people's walls. And, you know, it's another way, you never know who's going to see it, who's going to go to their home and maybe want to buy a piece, or, you know, you never know in that regard. So it's a great article. I definitely recommend it. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, is my sound on? Yeah. I'd like to share what I'm going through right now because it's altering my life. I was lucky. I was given, a patron actually sent me a very nice check and said, "Your work is so lovely, and I think you should have a one-person show. Please have this money and do it." And I had to make some choices. The first choice I had to make was to keep the money because I have all kinds of fucked up things in my head. And that was very scary to me that somebody would invest in me like that. But I kept it. I kept the money. And then I made a choice. I had to make a choice. Did I want to try and get into a group like a TAG? Because I had thought about it off and on. And now they have, by the way, different price points to join. It isn't just one large amount anymore. But then I decided on my own that I would rent a gallery. And I'm doing it. I'm exhausted as hell. I already have taken photographs of 147 pieces of art. I've been on Zoom for 3 years. I'm practically going to give my art away. I'm going to celebrate myself. I am taking this experience right now, and it is changing who I am as a person. I came into the art business late. I was an artist at 19, and then I was an actor for 40 years. And now I'm back to art again. And I want to share that you never know what's going to happen in your life and what direction you take. I have no idea if I'll sell anything, but I am going to celebrate the fact that I've lived as long as I have, that I've picked up again on my art. And that we'll see. It's a beautiful gallery over on Venice Boulevard in Western. I learned all about galleries. I'm learning about a lot of things now, and it's altering who I am as a person. I had a lot of issues about things, and suddenly I feel like I've been gifted, and miracles can happen, and I feel empowered. So I just want to share that. You never know what's going to happen in your life. And I'm a real old broad. So I never expected that this would happen again. And it's been thrilling. I'm exhausted, but it's thrilling. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I go through periods where I start thinking 4 people will come and then, oh my God, maybe 200 people will come. You know, you don't know. But I guess what I'm really saying is go with what shows up and go with your heart and do something for yourself that makes you feel wonderful. So,
Okay.
because we don't get acknowledged, people don't buy as much art, you know, we have to do it for ourselves.
Okay, we have to know when the show is.
Oh, we will. And Christine is helping me as well. It's October
I'm
26th
curating
and
it,
7th.
so
Yeah.
you will know. Follow me and follow Carol.
Yeah,
Make sure
yeah.
it's in October.
But it's so empowering. And if anybody has an opportunity to do something like that on their own, and I'm tired, this is a hard job.
She didn't tell you that I made her take those 147 photos of her art.
And I'm not even through yet. That's not even the black and white pictures yet.
I know. Thank you, Carol.
But
Thank you.
And I just want you to know that I'm saying it because I would love you. Anybody has an opportunity to do something for themselves. We just need to honor ourselves, you know? We don't
Yes.
get what we would like. Doesn't always work out that way, you know?
I asked Carol what her goals were, and she's like, to celebrate myself. And I said, let's jump off of that. That's exactly what we're going to do is celebrate Carol.
Yeah. And if I
So-
sell things, I'm going to make prices very low. I have, as you heard, hundreds of drawings. They're not going to be framed and people seem to love them. And I'm going to, you know, not give them away. And I'd love to have a charity. The charity actually is for me. I must admit that if I get money, I
That's
need it.
okay.
To be.
It's called The Pandemic Made Me Do It.
That's what the name is. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. I don't know. You know, I just wanted to share that with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was another hand up. Did somebody else have a question or? Not me?
I
Oh,
was just gonna tell you, Christine, with what you were saying earlier, as far as putting work up in people's houses, and if it sells, since I'm in Vegas, and I had something that was showing in LA, and I had a friend of mine go and pick it up, and I just told them keep it in their house, and you know when friends come and visit, and that way I'm like, and if it sells, you get a cut, you know, or you know for keeping it there, or,
yes.
and if it, and also if I have another show in LA where I need it to be at, I can have them take it there, and it'll be like on loan from their collection of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea, though. You know, it's like people, you know, it's interesting. Through the pandemic, I don't know how many Zoom calls I was in. And, you know, and I was in OA and I'm taking a break. But so I was in a lot of Zoom calls with, you know, with regular people. I say regular, not artists. You know, and looking at their, you know, with their cameras on, I swear like 3/4 of them did not have anything on the walls in the background in their homes. It's like I have to be filled with art. And that's who I am as an artist. I have to be surrounded. And I was just like, I swear, at least 3/4 of the people I was on Zoom with, their walls were blank.
Mm.
And I mean, some people need that minimalism, and I get it. But it's like, you know, and some people may not be able to afford a large piece of work, you know, which is totally possible. So it's like, why not? You know, if you know, like I hinted to Liberty, she has the show in the space here. There's a piece that I love, and I'm like, we were talking about this article, and I'm like, you know, if you want to like let it stay here on loan, but then I'm like, I don't have any room for it anyway. But you know, why not? You know, have a contract. You know, excuse me. In fact, I'm hoping I may reach out to the people in that article who did the Zero Art Fair, and I'm like, it would be cool if they brought it to LA. And it would be cool if they put together, it could be their own art project, put together like a package for artists that has the contract in it that they could share, that they could like, you know, it has like all of the instructions for loaning your work out to friends and family to, or, the public to hang on their walls. It has to be somebody you trust. But it would be a whole contract. I'm like, that wouldn't that be really cool? I'm like, and who knows, I may run with that idea. We'll see. April.
Yeah, I follow them on Instagram when they first introduced their idea, because this first Zero Art Fair was their first one that they did, and they were recruiting artists, and that's how I heard about them. And I did not participate because it's East Coast, it's so darn far away, and it seemed very much like something that I would want to physically be a part of, you know. And I mean, if it's in LA, that's much more doable to get the art there and to go there myself, you know. So I think that's a great idea if you reach out to them, Christine, and pitch the idea to them. Yeah, because you
Totally.
have a vast network that would be beneficial to them also. Like it's a beneficial, a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have to wait at least 2 weeks to do it though. I cannot
After
do anything
January
right
art
now
start, yeah.
after the launch. But yeah, it's like, why not? When you can, I mean, we could do these things on our own, thinking outside the box. But yeah, no, I love that idea because I always try to think, how can I get my art out there to wider audiences, like my paintings? And of course, that was before I cut it all up. So, that's a whole other thing. But let's see. So, a couple of other questions. I kind of mentioned that. Effective ways of getting work into other markets. We kind of touched on that, specifically LA and New York. Applying for shows, apply for, juried shows, get your work out there. Follow galleries that you admire, that you respect, and, look for their calls. Go to their openings when you can. When you travel, think about it this way also. If you travel, and I mean, I know a lot of people have traveled over the summer. Go into galleries and, and when you're talking to the people, say, yeah, I'm visiting from LA and, and I've admired your gallery from afar for so long, tell me about the show. Or, I mean, they will remember stuff like that. And then when you reach out in a month, say, I loved visiting your gallery last month when I was, traveling. I was wondering if you take artist submissions. It's like, let things be organic, let them be, authentic. And but when you're traveling, it gives you an easier in because you can just, open with, yeah, I'm visiting from and I'm only here for a certain time. You can even, like, if it's a place that takes appointments to see art or something like that, reach out to them and say the same thing. I'm here from visiting from LA. Some places like to show artists from out of town. So just remember that because their audiences also like to collect artists from out of town. So, keep that in mind also. Um, and so we kind of also touched on alternatives to galleries. I mentioned, art collectives like Durden and Ray, Tiger Strikes Asteroid. I mean, there's all sorts of organizations. There are, and there's galleries for art, like, for painting, sculpture, photography. There's also galleries for performance art, like Human Resources. If you haven't been in Chinatown, it's an amazing space. There's organizations like Free Waves or Clock Shop that do performances, and they do like outdoor installations and outdoor events and initiatives and happenings, like at the park here by Chinatown, the state park. Or Clock Shop, I've been a couple times. They did something by the LA River and they have sculptures, like outdoor sculptures. There's Feminist Center for Creative Work. There's all sorts of really cool organizations that you can get involved in to find your community. It doesn't have to be a gallery. That's the thing, and I've kind of mentioned this. Galleries are, um, gallery representation is only one path. There are so many different paths for artists to take. So just remember that in terms of thinking about galleries. And, like the next thing I wanted to mention, and I know we only have a few minutes left, like art fairs and festivals, that's a whole other ballgame. I know artists who go to who show at like Beverly Hills Art Fair, the outdoor art festival type places, La Quinta. Um, I follow a Facebook group. It's like Art Fair Reviews. And I mean, it is amazing. They have their own community. They review all of the different art fairs that they go to. And like, there's companies that run these art fairs and they talk about load in, load out. They talk about location and placement. They talk about how much work is selling, price points, audience. It's really fascinating. And and there are people that do this and make their living that way. So they are selling their art on their terms. They pay a few $100 for the booth. It is a lot of work over a weekend, but the people that you meet and the, amount that you sell, it could be worth it if that's what you want to do, is make a living selling your art. So that's something to keep in mind also. And then there's also art fairs like the other art fair, which, is run like Saatchi Online has a lot to do with that. Artists, can rent booths there, and it can be a little expensive. It can be like, $1,000 up to $4,000 or $5,000, depending on the size of your booth. Some artists make up what they pay, through sales. It's a great way to get an audience that may not have seen your work anywhere else. There are a lot of people that come to these events. I participated in the other art fair in April, with Perceive Me. And it was, I have a huge email list now of people that were interested. I sold one Perceive Me painting. And we sold, I think we sold $6,000 in drawings. So, from Perceive Me. So, it's, like I said, try things once, try the other art fair once, try, some of the art fairs, in that regard. Laguna has, Newport Beach, I know, has an art fair, and some of them you'll try and think it's just too much work for the payback, for what you get. And that's okay, but at least you tried, and who knows who you meet that may, influence or may, connect with you later on down the line. So keep those things in mind. And if you do other things like performance or poetry, or, I know artists who are like textile artists and also do poetry. It's like, why not reach out to these places like fairs and festivals and mention that you're a performance artist and ask if they would consider, you know, um, offering performance or poetry or whatever it is. So think outside the box in those terms also. And then just the other thing, which, can be a whole other conversation also. One person asked about residencies. You know, I try and go to residencies when I can. You have to, and if you're not familiar, a residency it's like a space where you can go and just work. You can get away. It's, and some of them are 1 week, some of them are a month, some of them are 3 months, some of them are paid, some of them you have to pay, some of them you could take your spouse or your kids, or, you can travel to them. There are residencies all over the world. There, but it's a place where you can just go and work unencumbered. It's like, think about it as a vacation where you just work. And, some artists just go from residency to residency and that's all they do. And they just work and they travel um, they're very inspiring. There's websites for residencies. There's, if you look up artist residencies, there's two top websites that come up. There's Res Artist and I think ACA, Artist Community something. I highly recommend checking those out and looking at residencies. I go to one in Dorland. It's called Dorland in Temecula, and I pay. It's like, 40 or $50 a night or something like that. And I get my own little cabin with a full kitchen, bathroom. It's mine for a week. And it's like a vacation. That is my vacation where I can go alone and work. I can go hiking. I can like be in nature. And it is my like way to get away. And so, you know, anytime we could do that for our art, whatever it is, and there's residencies for writers, for painters, for photographers, for musicians. There's writers, you know, it's like an artist retreat. It's kind of a similar thing, the same thing. So, you know, keep in mind, there are residencies for disabled artists. There are residencies, there are all sorts of residencies for babies. I mean, for, you know, families with babies. You know, so yeah, there are, you know, so it takes research, but there are residencies out there, you know, that are accessible for all. So highly, highly, highly recommend checking it out. Some of them have scholarships that you can apply for. A lot of them you'd have to pay for travel, but they're, you know, everything else is covered. So I highly recommend them. So, any last questions for the night before we head out? Let's see, I will put them in, I'll send them in an email. I'll send them in the email, when we're done. Let's see, residency websites. All right. And yeah, National Park Service, there are residencies for you know, specific subject matter. You know, definitely like Playa up in Oregon. I know several artists who have gone there, and it's like art and nature and science, and you know, there are residencies for, you know, all sorts of, you know, different things. So so definitely recommend, but I'll send the links in the email after this. So all right. Well, I figured next week we would touch on social media, which I know everybody really wants to talk about that, right? So bring any questions about social media, anything you're dealing with. I'm not going to go over what social media is because we all know what social media is. So bring any questions that you're struggling with, and I'll go over some of the questions that people had answered. If you have any questions, like there's like 2 more Saturdays before our launch party. I hope you're all able to make it. It's going to be so much fun. So just, you know, bringing artists together and community and all of that in the LA if you're here. So yes, Creative Capital, check that out for sure. On the januaryarts.org website, I have a page titled Artist Resources, and there's a drop-down menu that has Creative Capital. It also has like a couple of other resource sites. Sharon Loudon has great resources. Artist Thrive has a new database of resources. So check that out, including residencies and things like that too. So check that out. Julie.
Yeah.
You're unmuted.
Sorry.
You're good.
Oh my God, I did it. Finally. Sorry, I'm painting while I'm talking.
That's okay.
Question. I want to donate a piece for your launch party, and I was trying to. Oh, I answered my own question. Never mind. You sent a link out to the open call.
Oh, okay. And I'll let's see, and I'll put it in the email too. That way,
would
if
be
anybody
great.
wants to donate. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great.
I
Yeah.
love what you're doing. Thank you for helping us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you.
you.
I love meeting new artists and seeing new work, and I
Yeah,
love that. So
community.
yeah,
It's important.
Exactly.
Scene.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, before we leave, can I announce the open call that I was telling you about?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
I have an open call with the city of Santa Monica, and it's for artists of Latine and Indigenous experiences, celebrating Latino and Indigenous Heritage Month in September. So I dropped the link on the chat if anybody's interested.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, thank you for your support of, you know, Latina and Latinx and Indigenous artists. And, you know, I mean, opportunities like that are amazing. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Yep. All right, everybody. Well, I will see you. If I don't see you sometime this week, I will see you next Monday. Take care, everybody. And save the chat, and I'll send it to you anyway.
Cheers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.